Jacqui, just tell us, when you were a young girl, were you able to play football?
Unfortunately, when I was growing up, I went to an all-girls school and there was no talk about football there. And when I got into it big time through watching a game on television one day, and I asked if I could play, the answer was no. Nobody else wanted to, nobody else ever talked about football at school. And then I went to a virtually all boys school in the sixth form, and again the boys played, but there was no scope for girls to play, so I set up an upper six versus lower six girls v girls match for charity, and the boys all had to pay £1, but that was pretty much the extent of it. So no, I just bought myself a football and taught myself how to do keepy uppies and bash the ball against the garage door to learn control. And the first time I really was able to play it and get coached was when I was 17 and went to Leeds University, and on the first day of Freshers Open Day week, then I went along and looked for the women's football stand. That was it. Started training and playing.
And of course it's different now. Your daughter plays.
Yeah, my little girl Phoebe, she's just coming up to 8 years of age, and there isn't a team at her school. They can only play in a girls' team from the last year of primary school, unfortunately, which is a little bit frustrating. But she's plucked up the courage to have a kick around with the boys at lunchtime on the multi-use surface, which is good, because she previously said, I only want to play if I can play with my girly friends. But now she's kicking the ball around with the lads, and she's got some of the girls involved. But she loves football. She's totally obsessed with match attacks, the cards, and I have to keep going to Sainsbury's to buy them for her. So she absolutely loves it. She's really knowledgeable as well, which is really, really cool.
So that's a big step forward, isn't it? The fact that girls can play football and do play organised football now.
Yeah, it's still got a long way to go. It is still really frustrating. You just wish that they could go to school and that there was a team for them, or they were actively encouraged to play, because it is our national sport. And I tweeted the other day, imagine the talent pool that we would have if girls were encouraged to play right from the age of 4 when they go to school, and they can maybe get coached at lunch times and play along with the lads and be encouraged to do so. Then it would be fantastic, but at least they are able to. It's not frowned upon anymore, which is a step forward, but there is a little way to go. But there are usually local clubs, and the FA have got a Wildcats scheme that people can look up to take their girls along to, and make new friends there, of course, which is a big thing for girls in particular, I think, is making sure that they've got friends wherever they go.
Now, in terms of your day job, covering football, that also, with covering the women's game, has come on leaps and bounds, isn't it, in the last few years?
It has. I mean, I first started covering them 15 years ago in 2004 for the Algarve Cup, ahead of Euro 2005, which not too many people can remember, was in the northwest of England. And of course we didn't have the media exposure. They were nowhere near even being semi-pro in those days. I mean, they were full-time students, a lot of them really, and fitting in training on the side. So it has come a very, very long way. And it's just fantastic hearing about all the people who want to know about the Women's World Cup this summer, and they know a lot of the players' names already, and they're almost expecting England to win it, which is a little bit scary, but it's just great. There is that level of expectation now that England play well. They have the best facilities, the best opportunities pretty much now. Great funding involved in giving them what they need in terms of backroom staff and the facilities to train, St George's Park, all of this kind of stuff. So they've got a great opportunity, and let's just hope that the players do well. Hopefully they can win it. And I think media certainly is changing now in terms of covering the women's game. There's a lot more knowledge in the general media. Previously you'd have the odd newspaper journalist sent along who frankly didn't really know too much about what game was on next, and they'd maybe ask questions which would rile the manager and the players. But I think that's changing now, and people are more knowledgeable. There is a bit more information online, which really helps. Previously there was nothing like that, so it was hard to get that information. It's moving in the right direction, but I think it would be fantastic if every national newspaper could commit to at least publishing WSL and Championship results and fixtures. I mean, that's an absolute minimum, and beyond that, the stories are there. There are features to be written, there are stories to be told about these players. It's just a case of going and finding them.
Now tell us about your journey, because obviously you were covering women's football and you were fronting women's football. It's been, have you had to battle to just get that coverage, to help get that coverage?
Yeah, it was something I felt passionately about. Growing up and adored football, didn't have the opportunities, and I just thought it was so weird. Why do people think that women can't play football, and why do they think that it should be a male domain? Okay, I get the history in this country. We know that it was banned for 50 years, etc. But that played a huge part in the reason why people like me couldn't play football growing up, and there weren't any clubs, and it was sneered at, and dads and uncles and everybody would think, well, why would you want to play? So That was really frustrating, but times are changing, and it is great now that there are opportunities for people to play and cover the women's game, and just so many more journalists now wanting to cover the women's game. I think part of the problem is that maybe sometimes the WSL clubs and their press offices haven't grown with the demand now for coverage, which is quite interesting. And people think it's just journalists that don't want to cover it or newspapers that don't want to cover it, but actually sometimes the press offices are not necessarily making it as easy as it could be. But yeah, it's heading in the right direction.
And just quickly, tell us about your role in Women in Football as well, because that's an important organisation, isn't it? Helping women who work in football to understand each other and to be stronger together.
Yeah, Women in Football was founded in 2007 by Anna Kessel and Shelley Alexander, because they realised that there were women working sort of individually within clubs and press rooms and always on their own. They didn't really have the network. There was a natural network for men that, say, you'd go to a press box, cover a match, and you could go to the pub afterwards, or you'd have your sports room within your newspaper, and then you go for a drink afterwards, whereas we didn't really have that, and women weren't necessarily always involved in that. So we had to create a network to get women to support each other, to champion each other, to back each other, to encourage each other to apply for jobs, because sometimes we're our own worst enemies and we don't always have the confidence to say that, well, there's that job going, I could do that. I don't meet all the criteria, but neither does he, but still I could do that. And so that's what we're trying to do, is try to encourage women to give themselves the confidence and to give each other the confidence to apply for work, to improve themselves within the game, and to make footballing landscape a better place for everybody, not just for women. But we think that football is better off having a female influence in it, and there is evidence that suggests that that is the case. So gone are the days when football was just a male domain in the press box, in the press room and everywhere else. I think times have moved on now. Times have moved on, and Women in Football, we welcome men to our events. It's certainly not just about women going along going, oh, woe is me, I've had this terrible experience. There is a place for that if people do have a bad experience, but it's very much a positive place, and we've got some great people involved, particularly with the What If campaign. If you saw that hashtag What If on Twitter, the pledges that have come forwards to make a practical difference. It's not just saying, oh yeah, we want to have more women in the office, or we want to encourage women into senior positions. It's actually pledging to make that happen and putting systems in place to make that happen, and whether it's including female physios and doctors and staff on FIFA computer games, that sort of thing, Football Manager. Those are all little steps which actually really help build up to this picture of a modern football for everyone.